now?
Yep.
And you see me?
Yep.
Okay. We're celebrating a triple birthday here today. This is the first anniversary of the opening of the Maverick Bookstore, opened on March 15th, 1985. And also it's a 10th anniversary for a sister organization, Green Valley Film and Art, which is an educational foundation involved in publishing and filmmaking. And also today marks the official beginning of a new culture center across the hallway from the bookstore called the Natake Center, which is going to be offering poetry, music, and other cultural events on a weekly basis. And so we've decided to bring it all together in one day.
What is Maverick Media aimed at? Why does it exist? What is it?
Yeah, Maverick is a bookstore, but a little bit more than that. It's a progressive bookstore. We focus on particularly political books, books on spirituality, women's literature, and that sort of thing. But beyond that, we also sponsor a lot of events because being involved in media means being involved with more than the printed word. And so we've been having performances, films. We use the space for community meetings and try to generate a dialogue with the community. So that's what makes it a media center rather than simply a bookstore. But the base of it is the selling of books, and that's where we have to really reach the community.
How has it succeeded in talking with the community?
The response has been really positive. We're not in the downtown area. We're on North Street, and traditionally North Street hasn't been the kind of place where you go to shop for books. But we're, I think, successfully fighting the sort of the Church Street syndrome and getting across the idea that there is life and culture outside of the downtown business district. And we've had over 70 events in the last year, and many of them attended by 50, 75 people. So I'm pleased with it so far. What?
Oh, this is me trying to think of questions. I'm bad at this.
That's okay.
And I'll tell one of the girls exactly what I brought for supper. And I've got all my plastic.
Oh well. What have you got any plans for the future?
Yeah, there are always plans for the future. Our plans for the future are, first of all, surviving. It's not easy to survive on North Street, even though I've just told you about all the good things that are going on. You know, a small business like this has a hard enough time surviving when we're with dozens of other businesses. It becomes even more difficult when you're the only person on the block, which is almost literally true in our case. And so our main work for the next year or two is going to be getting people to come down to this part of town, getting people who live in the North End to rediscover their own street in a way that hasn't been true in decades. And so I think that's the major challenge for any kind of business, and for us around here, is to get people to just realize that there's something that they can walk to rather than driving to a mall.
Are you part of are you doing anything with other people to help people rediscover North Street? Are you a part of anything, or are you spearheading an event, or a movement, or?
Well, I don't think we're spearheading. Some people said when we opened it that we were kind of pioneers because so many businesses have moved out of this area, and the idea of taking an old building, this was a bar, up until about 3 years ago, and converting it into a culture center and a bookstore seemed like a kind of a crazy thing to do. But what we've done is, as a way of reaching people, is to offer the space to as many different groups as possible. We've had meetings on local crime here with the chief of police and neighborhood residents. We've had office hours with aldermen. We had the Citizens for a Better Waterfront group, which was opposing the Alden plan last fall, meeting here on a regular basis. We were just offering that. We weren't spearheading it. We're not the organizers of these groups, but we're the hosts for an eclectic group of people, as well as doing things with young people. Today's event really brings in a whole new group of people involved in the cheap art movement, people in their 20s who might otherwise never come down to this part of town. And so that's the kind of outreach. And so it's not defining North Street as just a place where people who lived on North Street all their lives live now, but a place that's a community for roughly 10,000 people in the city, and they are all sorts of people. You know.
Have you gotten any help from the City Hall in this project?
Yeah, in a couple of different ways we've been helped by City Hall. First of all, in the renovation of the building, we were helped in terms of getting a small grant through the CEDO office for exterior improvements, because we rehabilitated the building so that it looked somewhat the way it looked in the early 20th century. Also made it handicapped accessible, and I would say it's probably one of the few buildings on North Street that is. And so they helped us with that. Also, we work with the arts office, with the youth office, and with other offices in city government on specific events, as well as with individual aldermen. So it's been an informal relationship, but there's support. The main problem on North Street is the fact of benign neglect, I guess you'd say, and also the traffic problem. It's hard to start any business down here without addressing the traffic problem and the parking problem specifically. And that's going to continue to be a problem, and unless somebody, and it's probably going to be the city someday, figures out how to make it hospitable for businesses to locate here, you won't see too much growth. And that's the area in which the greatest need exists now. That, and, you know, continuing to help spiff up the buildings and make people feel proud of the place they live.
I think this is true.
Do you want to mention any of the people's names that are working here?
I'll just tell you about how this came together. This building was purchased about 2 years ago by Robin Lloyd and renovated. Then I and my partner, Lance Setliff, opened the business here. We work with Green Valley Film and Art, as I mentioned, that sponsors events in the gallery, as well.
Who is Green Valley?
Green Valley is an educational nonprofit corporation that's existed for 10 years, and one of the principals is Doreen Kraft, who used to work with City Hall in the arts office. Robin, myself, Marvin Fishman, and other people affiliated. Kwanzaa is a Third World group, cultural group. Roz Payne has worked with us on projects. We're affiliated also with Bread and Puppet, because they worked with us in the publishing of the Bread and Puppet book. So it's a broad group of artists and filmmakers and writers. But also we're now working with another group of people that's just self-organized in the last 2 months. That includes about 8 or 10 local people, students, and people who've been active for years, to open this cultural center on the other side, which we hope is going to bring more business to the bookstore and kind of solidify this idea of a place where events occur and where an exchange of ideas and energy can take place. And so it hasn't been one person or even one business. It's a confluence of forces, and it's the only way that something like this can succeed, I think.
Okay, what would it be after June 1st?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Sure.
Anything else you're dying to say?
Well, just read you the poem that was
Sure.
That was written here about 2 weeks ago. Allen Ginsberg was visiting Burlington to read poetry at the Memorial Auditorium with Margaret Randall, and we held a reception for him down here in the afternoon. And during the reception, he penned a poem. And I'll read it to you. It's relatively short. It's titled Burlington Snow. Socialist snow on the streets. Socialist talk in the Maverick Bookstore. Socialist kids sucking socialist lollipops. Socialist poetry in socialist mouths. Aren't the birds frozen socialists? Aren't the snow clouds blocking the airfield social democratic appearances? Isn't the socialist sky owned by the socialist sun, Earth itself socialist, forests, rivers, lakes, furry mountains, socialist salt and oceans? Isn't this poem socialist? It doesn't belong to me anymore.